I'll call to order the regular scheduled council meeting for Monday, September 9th, 2019. If you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
First District Councilwoman Myrna Maldonado. Present. Third District Councilwoman Walker.
Present.
Fourth District Councilwoman Christine Vasquez.
Present.
Fifth District Councilman Robert Garcia.
Present.
District Councilwoman Gilda Horn.
Present.
Councilman at Large Richard Medina.
Here.
Councilman at Large Emiliano Perez.
Present.
Councilman at Large William Hall.
Present.
Council President Benny.
Present. First thing on the agenda is to call to order the public hearing. Madam Clerk, first ordinance.
Ordinance 19-0015, sponsor Mayor Anthony Copeland. An ordinance vacating a portion of a public alley pursuant to Indiana Code 36-7-3-12 for Lake Shore Manor.
Do we have someone to speak on this?
Richard Morrisroe, Assistant City Attorney, Acting City Planner. We discussed this briefly at the last meeting. These are two alleys that are part of the triangular section that is bounded by Main Street, Guthrie, and 136th Street. Lakeshore Manor is the senior housing of some 204 units, which are proposed to be along both sides of Main Street and along the north side of 136th Street. These two alleys are behind the part that is on the east side of Main Street and above the north side of 136th. They are important to be vacated. There will still be access for refuse removal and for cars to go in and out, but it'll be redesigned and not be configured as the alley was historically.
Any questions? And I'll open up the podium to see who is for or against ordinance 19-0015. Madam Clerk, I think we have one more, ordinance 19-0012 is for the public hearing. It's an ordinance on the second reading. It's also on second reading as well.
Councilman, this was the ordinance that required
Oh, that's the one you were talking about?
19-0015, and you have opened the public hearing on this ordinance.
Okay. Very well. Sorry about that, Madam Clerk. I'm now closing the public portion of the meeting. They're now get the regular scheduled meeting. I know the minutes will be read on the next meeting. Do we have any communications from the mayor? Do you have any communications from department heads?
Yes. Accounts payable warrant 090419CC, 090919CC, 090919L.
So moved, Mr. President. Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Vasquez, seconded by Councilwoman Walker to accept accounts payable warrants as read. Any questions on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Orange.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Francis.
Yes.
Payroll warrant bi-weekly 082319 monthly 083019, payroll warrant miscellaneous 083019, and payroll warrant biweekly 0906.
So move.
Second, Mr. President.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes, I got a question. I see the payroll warrant monthly and the miscellaneous has the same number. Why is that the same number?
Do we have somebody to speak on that?
I know that they are different reports,
Thank you, Vinnie.
Motion was made by Councilman Monroe, seconded by Councilman Garcia to accept payroll warrants as read. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Vasquez,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Orange,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes.
Francis.
Yes.
Mr. President, Councilman Garcia, I'll check into that, and we'll get back with you on that answer. Thank you.
Do we have somebody from the Utilities Directors here? I don't see him in the audience, so, okay. Moving on, do we have any committee reports? Moving on to board reports, do we have any board reports? Councilman?
President, no, I just got a question for Mr. Rodriguez Henry, since he's on the Waterway Board.
Yes, sir.
I see that they moved that fence back on the CDF. Was there a particular reason they moved that fence back?
Move the what?
The fencing on the CDF, because it used to be right there on the sidewalk. Now they moved it back.
No, they never mentioned anything to us about that.
Okay. Can you find out why they
Talking
moved
about
it?
along the boulevard,
Yes.
they're going to replace it with the same type of fencing that you see the other companies have right now.
Okay, is that what it is?
That's probably why.
Okay. Can you find out and let us know, please?
All right.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances on first reading?
Yes, ordinance 19-0019, ordinance for appropriation and tax rate. Commissioner Alexander.
So move on first reading, Mr. President.
Second. Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilman Medina, to hear ordinance 19-0019 on first reading. Councilman Garcia?
Yes. Did the rates for sanitary go up?
You asked about the rates. On the document that was passed out, the adopted rates or proposed rates for the special general sanitary district is .7717. It will go down quite a bit because of the assessed evaluation numbers that are used for advertising compared to the final rate. That should come down substantially. And since our AV went up again this year, it should go below last year. And I'll go on to explain at the regular city budget how there will be an additional reduction because of the constitutional amendment that takes effect in 1920. The sanitary district debt bond that was paid out of property taxes was retired in January of this year, so there will not be one next year, so that will have a further reduction.
Yeah, I got another question. Let's see what page. It's got the total budget estimate for incoming year as $750,000.
I'm sorry,
That's $750,000. So on the budget estimate, financial statement, proposed tax rate, then on the number one is total budget estimate, incoming.
oh, that's a revolving fund where funds are, as they're collected, are put in there every year, and we have to appropriate those so they can do for their improvements. They don't always spend that, but we appropriate it every year.
But why is it an estimate, total budget estimate? It's not it's funds coming in, correct?
No, it's just money that we take out and put in this revolving fund. And so therefore, if in fact they would need to buy equipment or buy other things, they have an appropriation to do that, and it's an annual appropriation for the district.
Then under services and charges, you got $10,821,500. What's services and charges?
I'm sorry. Again, you mean services and charges?
Yep.
For income, you mean? I'm not sure what number you're talking about, Councilman. The budget estimate is $11.5 million for the sanitary district operating, and the estimated maximum levy that we can collect is $12,347,655, but that's the maximum levy. There will be a reduction of that because of the caps.
I'm just talking about the services and charges.
Referring to the Form 3.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Form 3 and the Form 4
Okay.
do reflect $12,500,000 total.
Maybe next time we could get these numbers, and it'd be easy for all of us.
Well, the 4As is for the sanitary district operating. That's the solids. And that adoption is, yes, there's $10,827,500 for contractual services, and the total budget is $13,405,111. And that's transferred as part to our public works as for the operating.
Can I get a list of services and contracts that pertains to?
Okay.
Then you got a capital outlay on Form 4A2. Capital outlay, $750,000.
Yes, for the other, yes.
What they gonna do with that?
They'll buy equipment or do replacement equipment with the district.
That's all.
Any other questions for Mr. Bennett? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Morone.
Yes. Yes. Madam Clerk, next ordinance, please.
Ordinance 19-0020, ordinance for appropriation and tax rates of the Chicago City.
So move on first reading, Mr. President.
Second. Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilman Medina, to hear ordinance 19-0020 on first reading. Any discussion on the motion? Councilman Garcia?
Yes. On this first row here, where you got adopted budget, that's incoming dollars, correct?
I'm sorry, I can't.
Is incoming money coming in the first row?
Yeah, let me pull that ordinance up. Yeah, that's the advertisement that's required, that shows that all the funds that are being appropriated. And if you like, I'm going to pass out, as we have in past years, the spreadsheets that show the variances between this year and last year by both series and by fund. So.
You give that to the clerk.
Yeah, just give it to the clerk, please.
You can hand them to the clerk.
Clerk.
Can you explain the lease rental payment to me?
Make it work.
Can you explain the lease rental payment?
Yes, that's the debt service on the public safety facility.
The motor vehicle highway, that's money, that's $3,500,000 coming in?
Again, I'm sorry.
Motor vehicle highway, is that money coming in? The 3 million?
Yeah, in MBH, in some cases, we've accumulated funds over time where we've not used that money for projects in the past, and then we build that money up to do a special project or a group of projects. And so I believe that the normal income on that is I believe it's approximately about here it is. It brings in about $1.2 million a year in gas tax. So we've accumulated this over time. And we anticipate that the balances that may be left in the appropriation for this year, we would accumulate in the next year for the appropriation.
So that hasn't been spent in 2-3 years?
We have spent money, but we still have an accumulation of funds.
Can you explain the TIF on the U.S. gypsum? Is that $2 million we losing on
The
that?
U.S. gypsum?
Yeah.
The U.S. gypsum was done some 20-plus years ago. So it's a TIF fund that was created when they did their improvements at the TIF at that location. And the agreement at the time was that the city would reimburse them the TIF funds that were collected until the debt was paid or until the years ran out, which I think is year 25 is coming up like in another year or so. So the money that's appropriated, whatever funds we get in, we transfer to gypsum. Now, once that runs out, the TIF could be eliminated or whatever, and then it would be brought back into the city.
What is the Home Investment Partnership Program?
That's redevelopment. And I'd have to have them explain the details of that, but it's part of a HUD project plan, and I think you guys approved those in detail.
Can you have bring an explanation to us our next meeting?
Well, the whole concept is normally we introduce this tonight, and you guys approve it on first reading, and then on the 23rd, when we have the public hearing, then in detail, try and go through the budgets in more detail. This gives you a chance to look at the spreadsheets, so you can have questions, and if you can, you could submit them to us, and I'll try and give you a detail of that.
I understand the TIF on Lakeside Garden. It looks excellent over there. Well, what is the TIF annex allocation area?
The pardon?
Allocation area.
The TIF allocation area is a TIF district, basically. It's a district that's been created. The lakefront TIF or gardens or any of the other.
Which one is that one? Because I understand Lakeside Garden.
Lakeside Gardens, this council approved they issued $35 million worth of bonds, and we did again a TIF allocation that goes back to them as part of that development.
So which one is this one?
It's under
9528 TIF?
Yeah, it's 9526 is Lakeside Garden TIF. The TIF annex allocation area. I'll have to get back with you. I'm not sure which one that is. But I'll have that answer for you.
Councilman Perez?
Mr. Bennett, on the Park and Recreation, I see that the total budget estimate for the incoming year is $4.2 million.
The budget adoption is advertised at $3.75 million.
3.75. So what am I looking at here then? If I'm looking at this as Park and Recreation, total budget estimate for incoming year, 4.299.
I'm not sure. Park and Recreation this year is advertised at, and the budget for 2020 is $3.750,000.
see that number nowhere on this sheet.
It's off of this sheet.
It's on that spreadsheet.
Adopting. We're not adopting the spreadsheet, we're adopting this one.
I understand. Let me,
Looking on 4B,
okay, let me look at
this
it.
is the circuit breaker credit.
The circuit breaker
Oh, that's
credit?
what it is. I'm sorry about that. I didn't know that's the count. I thought you were looking off the spreadsheet, Councilman.
No, not the spreadsheet, I apologize. So the circuit breaker takes us to what, 3 point? Where we at? Circuit recreation.
Well, the estimated circuit breaker here is about $550,000.
And I just want to point out to my colleagues that this is part of what I'm trying to address in the ordinance that we'll address later on today, is that this huge number at the top, we're approving $3.7 million, and we have no clue where that money's going to end up. They can move it, they can do whatever project they desire, and once we approve it, they don't have to come back, and they do a poor job of coming back and informing the council. And I think that's what triggered this. But I just want, this is a good example of that. When you go to that sheet and you see $3.75 million, and there's nothing attached to that, nothing itemized budget, which I hope to get to at one point, an itemized budget with a total. Not that there's anything wrong with the way they're doing their budget, but the council, being the authority over the fiscal matters, has a responsibility to know what the money's being spent on. And I don't think it's wise that we approve one lump sum and then let them break it up as they see fit on the administration side,
But
the executive side.
If you go back further in there to the line item, it breaks it down by series, 100, 200,
Sure,
300.
but even in series, you guys can move and transfer within right now, which is the
Within a
only-
series, we can.
Right.
If we want to go from one series to another series, we cannot do that without coming to the council.
Right, we understand that, but we also have situations where, since that money is allocated in a lump sum, what was meant to be a street project could end up being grass cutting at the park. And that is the issue that I have anyway.
Jim, Councilman Perez's point is, as you acknowledged, is that within the series, there are millions and millions of dollars every year in the budget that the council is asked to appropriate, and movement of that money within the series, which you acknowledge, could be done. There's no accounting for the council. No request for.
And I think that,
That's
John,
a concern for the
we've tried to do good stewardship with those funds.
No question about that.
I mean, I think you can see that in the community,
Absolutely.
and we have not tried to, misspend it or not take any appropriation to this council that we needed.
Council members aren't questioning that either. But you understand and you acknowledge the point that Councilman Perez made.
I do, and the fact that, but within the series, anything else we bring back to you.
Councilman Perez?
Mr. Bennett, many times I've stood up here and said, what a great job, great stewardship the administration is doing. I say that again today. But because you guys are doing your job today, doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing ours, and that we should have blind trust. It just means that if everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, the city will run right, and there will be no chances. Maybe the next administration that comes in won't be so nice. So it is not anything towards the administration or what they're doing. It's that it's our responsibility to know where the funds go. It really is.
Councilwoman Orange?
No, I was going to say,
Oh.
whatever, that, Mr. Bennett, whatever you give to Councilman Garcia, could you make sure that all of us...
Oh, no, it'll be, everybody will get a copy.
Councilman Garcia?
Yeah, is this rate is going up or going down?
Pardon?
This rate will go up or go
The
down?
tax rate?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Councilman. In 2019-20 for the budget year, the Constitution now says that in that year, that all exempt debt, public safety facility as an example, any exempt debt at the county must come back into the 123. So that many communities are going to suffer greatly by that because they just have not planned well. Here we have. The rate will come down until we get the final numbers from the state. I can't tell you how much, but the $2.2 million payment, or close to $2 million payment we're going to make in public safety, is now going to come back into this part of this total dollars received under 123. So there will be two net effects. There will be the effect of the assessed valuation going up, and there will be an effect because of the debt service that's coming back inside rather than being outside the rate.
Any other questions?
Carl Sender, Financial Advisor. Do you have an estimate of what the assessed value is going to be for next year yet?
We got a preliminary number from the county, and Carl, I'll provide that on the 23rd, but we do have a preliminary number.
But it did increase a little bit over.
It increased, I think, about $55 million.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do that.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes, Mr. Bennett, if you could provide that to Senator Early so he could give us any analysis before that.
In fact, I was scheduling a meeting with he and Steve to go over this and to also go through those numbers. And I talked to Steve about that probably a week ago.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado. Yes. Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Medina.
Yes.
Pereira.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance 19-0023, sponsor Mayor Anthony Copeland, appropriation ordinance grants fund, OC program.
So move, Mr. President.
Second. Motion was made by Councilwoman Vasquez, seconded by Councilman Monroe, to hear ordinance 19-0023. Is this on first reading, Councilwoman, or second?
First and second.
On first and second reading. Any discussion on the motion? Councilman Garcia?
Yes, I see they have it under services and contractual. Why is it not broken down?
The concept that we have right now, and we're going to work through the committee, is that the funds, so we don't have to come back, we would contract, the city would contract with School City. School City would then do the invoices for the services rendered by whatever the budget and setup is of the committee. And then that would come to us, and we would then have a contract between School City and the city to pay that. The foundations have asked the city to be the money holders and the trackers. And so once that is approved, the council would approve a regular claim, and then that money would be submitted back to them. So it would be under contractual services.
Yeah, I just don't want to put the horse before the cart. I'd rather have them, the plan set. This is what the money's going to. Then I know where it's going, but I don't want to go ahead and give $175,000 where I don't know where it's going.
And we will, I just talked to the councilman, and I talked to your lawyer, attorney tonight, and we will have that worked, hopefully have that worked out before the public hearing and the final adoption.
Councilwoman Orange?
Also, Carla Morgan is here. She's been working on the program with myself and Councilman Monroe. She can explain a little bit more about how that's going to be broken down.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carla Morgan, an attorney for the city. To break down a little bit of the use of the $175,000, it was decided that the School City is going to administer the program, but the grant did come to the city itself. So that $175 is going to go towards salaries for the truant officers. There are going to be 5 truancy officers, a secretary devoted to the program, and a stipend for the executive director. So between those employees who are going to be contract employees of the School City, all those monies are to go to compensate them. So that's the use of the funds. Did you have questions about specific positions in the
No,
program?
see, you know where the money's going, and it should have been put on paper, included in here, and say, well, this is what the money's going to be spent on. I don't know if that could be provided before the final hearing, but I'd like to know where the money is going instead of just putting in services and contractors.
I'll make sure the council has, I can provide it through the clerk or directly to you all by the middle of this week that you'll have those details. But again, it's the 5 truancy officers, the secretary, and the executive director that accounts for every dollar that is that's been appropriated here today.
Thank you.
Councilman Perez?
This is more of a statement than a question to Carla. That's, again, I just want to point out the difficulties that the council has in controlling once you approve something. Nothing would stop, and I know this administration is not going to do this, but nothing would stop them from paying $100,000 to a director and $75 to an assistant director and just create 2 political jobs. Nothing would stop them from doing that. I know they're not going to do that. I'm not trying to insinuate that. But that's the danger when we approve one lump sum and don't have an itemized budget that this council should approve. I just wanted to take another opportunity to show when these things happen and what it is that we can do to prevent them from happening.
Councilwoman Orange?
Well, first of all the money is not coming from the city, but the city has to have the money on hand until that money is given to them. Some of the money, $75,000, is coming from the foundations. $25,000 is coming from the school city. If this wasn't such an urgency of losing our kids and them not being able to get scholarships, and the state now making a mandate of truancy and making sure that the kids are in school. The mandate is coming for the truancy. We talked to a couple of the people that are on staff for the state. But the thing of it is that if the school city had the money, we wouldn't be in this position. They don't have the money to be able to help themselves with the truancy, and yes, they should have been doing more. But when we lose out on scholarships for the kids, because the foundations have said they no longer want to give our children the scholarships because you got a straight A-B student that has missed 22 days out of school for the whole year. We have to have some type of tracking system so that our kids can get back on track. We're only asking for this program to be a 2-year program, then it goes back to the school city, and hopefully they can get back on track with the state and to make sure that the kids are going to school. It's not just our problem, it's a national problem, and it surely is in Indiana. We've talked to people from Crown Point, Chesterton, Lake Station, Maryville, Portage. Everybody is having the same problem with it. They may have more controls in place, and as you know, we've had the superintendent has resigned. They've had maybe more problems, especially with the lead and different things. Maybe our kids have more problems than some of the other ones, but it's still a national problem. The money is not actually, all of it is not coming from the city, but we did, myself and Councilman Monroe, because we couldn't get it off the ground, we did go and talk to the mayor to see if he would help us out with this. It's just alarming when you see the situation with the kids and the truancy. And I'm asking my colleagues to vote for this and then come back, whatever Carla needs to give you so that you can make an informed decision. A lot of people are saying that the school city and the city cannot do business together. But this isn't even about 2 entities working together. It's about the kids that are in school and that have parental problems. It is not trying to punish the parents. It's trying to make sure that the parents have everything and every opportunity they need in order to help their children. From having school clothing, we've heard that some kids have to watch their siblings because that's why they're not in school. Some kids, the library said it is a chronic problem for the kids. They come to the library and stay all day. There's something got to be done because we're losing our children. And so I'm hoping that we can put aside any differences and vote on this.
If it would help, I can give a little more detail on the record if you'd like that.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, the program is going to hire 5 truancy officers at the rate of $27,000 a year. They're looking to hire people like retired East Chicago police officers and those type of people who have experience in this field. The schools have instituted a new software program to help them monitor more closely who's attending school and who's not. And so with those, with that fresher, better information, they're going to send those truancy officers out on a daily basis to find out why aren't these families having their kids attend school. And they have a system in place where, there's an action that happens with each increasing unexcused absence, where the officers are mandated to, take certain actions when they hit, 1 absence, 5 absences, 10 absences, that kind of thing. So it's a much more structured program. I think the difference between, and mind you, 5 truancy officers, 1 secretary at $20,000 a year, and then executive directors portion from this program is $20,000 a year. So those are the salaries or the compensation that's in the program. But other cities have had these programs in place to try to address truancy and the high rates of absence. And we, for whatever reason, and I think Councilwoman Orange hit on those major points, why we didn't have one in place, but we certainly need one. And just from my experience with this program, years ago when I first started practicing law, I actually was a juvenile public defender in another county, and I dealt with these issues, and they had a system in place. I was very surprised that we didn't have one in place, but it certainly explains why, if you're out and about in the daytime, you frequently see teenagers who clearly should be at Central High School or just walking, or they're at McDonald's or something like that. So it's needed, and again, truancy officers, the bulk of this money is going to their compensation. That's $27,000 a year for 5 staff people, and then 20 for 1 secretary and 20 for the executive director of the program.
Councilwoman Maldonado.
Thank you. Actually, you kind of answered my questions. I was wondering who those truancy officers would be, and so you're saying that they would be retired?
They're looking for retired East Chicago police officers to become the truancy officers in this program because they're familiar with the community, they're familiar with our particular population, and they can hit the ground running as far as, taking this information, contacting families, trying to follow the steps in the program to get those kids back into school and attending regularly.
Carla, do you know if the executive director and the secretary have been chosen already?
The executive director has been Marcus Jefferson, who also is a coach at the school. He does a few other things. The secretary, I don't believe, has been identified yet. I know a lot of people put a lot of months of work into this program, but it's kind of a lot of administrative things are being done with this change in the school city here very quickly to get people in place. But no, the secretary hasn't been chosen. I know that they have a name or two of retired East Chicago police officers, but they're, again, looking to staff up really quickly.
I'm familiar with the new system that they're using at the school city for attendance.
Okay.
So I think that will help. The previous system, it was a little difficult to pinpoint, so I certainly understand that. The only other question I have is, are there any details regarding the actual program itself?
There are. I have a whole folder of it, but I'll make sure you all get that, like I said, by Wednesday. You'll have this information.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes, Mr. President, I'm pretty sure this council all is in favor of this. Like I said, it was just the way it was presented under other services and contractual. It should have been as easy as you explained it to us. It could have been put on paper and given to us, and we probably had went all this time on it. And I just don't want to go down that road. Everything's under services and contractual and nothing put on paper to given to us. But as easy as you explained it to us, if we had had that, it'd been no issue, no problems.
Did you make sure they get that and how the program is going to run?
I certainly will.
Schools that it entails, because it also entails the 3 outlying schools. And the reason why for that, excuse me, Councilman Garcia, I know you had the floor, but the reason for that is that oftentimes kids coming from St. Stan's, Urban Enterprises, and the Lighthouse wind up back in the East Chicago school system for one reason or the other. And being able to track those kids will make a difference. And I think if you can stop the truancy at every level, then we would have a better product at the end of the day. Because like I said, when they said that kids are missing 40 days out of a school year, there's no way you can learn. And then they're out in the street, then it causes trouble, then you got problems with the police department, because now they're running after these kids that are acting out because they don't have any place to go. They've either gotten put out of school. And so I think that on some level, like I said, it just wipes out everything, because it is really about the kids, and it's about the kids in East Chicago, because we can't let them down on this. And at the end of the day, hopefully that they will come back, remember us, and take care of us instead of us being preyed, because they don't have anything else to do.
Councilman Garcia.
Just to finish up, Mr. President, I just want to just make sure also the positions are open to anybody to apply, just
Yes.
not, correct?
That's my understanding.
Right.
And again, except for the executive director, the other positions have yet to be filled, so
Why is that?
why have they not been filled?
No, why is executive director just not being open?
Well,
I can kind of explain that. It's because, I'm sorry. It's because Marcus Jefferson had experience in truancy at Roosevelt High School. When Roosevelt High School was a D and F school, he was initiated the program for the truancy program that raised their schools up. I think they was either a C or B when he left that school, and it was because of the truancy program. He already had it in place. We didn't want to have to reinvent the wheel. And then if you got somebody, it doesn't mean that the school city or the city has to keep him, but in order to get it off the ground, we had to have somebody that had knowledge on how that's supposed to go, how the reporting has to go to the state. And that was one of the big things, is the reporting to the state for the truancy, because their money is at, the school city's money is at stake. On the very first day, they had, I think, what did she say, 171 no-shows? And that means that's 171 amount of dollars from school kids that never went there. And on next Friday, September the 13th. This Friday, September the 13th, we want to make sure that every child that lives in East Chicago is in school, because if not, they lose their, the East Chicago schools will lose their funding.
Right.
So I know that Frank Mervan, the North Township trustee, is helping out with robocalls to make sure we're doing personal calls. Myself, Councilman Monroe, and them are doing personal calls to make sure the kids are in school. It is just that important, so that they can at least be accounted for.
Councilwoman Maldonado.
Carla, real quick, just for clarification purposes, these employees, are they employees of the school city of East Chicago or the civil city of East Chicago?
school city, and my understanding is they'll be contract employees of the school city.
We've been informed, Councilman, that they will be independent contractors hired under contract between the school city and the individual truancy officers.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Mr. President, this is an additional appropriation ordinance that we requested from the council.
Okay.
And it would be appropriate if the council wishes to move the matter forward, make a motion to set the matter.
So moved, Mr. President.
Second. Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilman Monroe, to move ordinance 19-0023 for public hearing. Any questions on the motion? To read the ordinance, I'm sorry. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Yes.
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 Orange,
Yes.
Medina,
Yes.
Perez,
Yes.
Monroe,
Yes. Yes. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances on second reading?
Yes. Ordinance 19-0015, sponsored Mayor Anthony Copeland. An ordinance vacating a portion of a public alley pursuant to Indiana Code 36-7-3-12 for Lakeshore Manor.
So move in second and third reading, Mr. President.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilwoman Maldonado to hear ordinance 19-0015. Second and third reading. Any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Vasquez?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Horn?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes. Yes. Madam Clerk, do we have any ordinances on third reading?
Yes. Ordinance 19-0017, sponsored Councilman Milano Perez. Require common council approval of budget transfer within the same major budget classification.
So move, Mr. President.
Second. Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilman Monroe to hear ordinance 19-0017 on third reading. Any discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado?
Yes.
Walker?
No.
Vasquez?
No.
Garcia?
Yes.
Horn?
No.
Medina?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes. No. Madam Clerk, next ordinance, please.
Ordinance 19-0018, sponsored Councilwoman Lola Orange, an ordinance adding fees for parking at the Coors Park.
So moved on third and final reading.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Orange, seconded by Councilwoman Vasquez to hear ordinance 19-0018 on third reading. Any discussion on the motion? Councilman Garcia?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to amend that East Chicago residents are free.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilman Perez to amend ordinance 19-0018. Any discussion on the motion? Councilwoman Orange?
I think that the citizens paying $5 is not too much to ask, and that I'm asking that this council approve that. The citizens in East Chicago have to take some responsibility on the upkeep of the parks and the lakefront. It may not always be this administration that has been able to rein in the money and make sure that there's a surplus. And when people pay for things, they treat it a little bit different. $5 is not too much to ask.
Councilwoman Vasquez?
I just have a comment on that. I also believe that sometimes when we pay fees to keep our city looking good, that I think that, I also agree that $5 isn't a huge amount for residents to pay. I also have, with council monies that we earned up here, have contributed to buying passes for children to go swimming at our parks, for those who can't afford. And we do have residents that reach out to us and ask us for help. So I wouldn't have a problem with the monies that this council makes to, residents reached out to me and needed some assistance with that. So I agree that $5, I agree in giving back to the residents, but I also agree that $5 is not a huge a fee that our residents cannot afford.
Councilman Monroe?
Yeah, I have checked in other areas and other cities are charging. I don't know exactly what they're charging, but I do know they charge their residents. And I'm looking at $5 a year is not bad.
Councilman Perez?
I agree that $5 is not the issue. The issue is we're sitting on a huge surplus, $26 million, and we nickel and dime our residents, $10 for a pool pass, $5 for a pass at the marina. Taxpayers pay for that. I don't know, I'm old school. I think the public ways should be free to the people that live here. We shouldn't have to pay to get access to our lakefront.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, roll call. I believe there is a motion to amend ordinance 19-0018. Roll call, please.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Walker.
No.
Vasquez.
No.
Garcia.
Yes.
Orange.
No.
Ladino.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
No.
Januszewski.
No. Councilwoman Orange.
So we're going back to the original motion to pass it.
Correct.
So I make the motion again on the third and final reading.
Second.
You ready to make it?
Motion was made by Councilwoman Orange,
They didn't know.
seconded by Councilwoman Vasquez to hear ordinance 19-0018 on third reading. Any questions on the discussion? Or any questions, rather? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Maldonado.
No.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
Garcia.
No.
Orange.
Yes.
Medina.
No.
Perez.
No.
Monroe.
Yes.
Januszewski.
Yes. Madam Clerk, do we have any resolutions?
Yes. Resolution 19-0011, sponsored Councilman Robert Garcia, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of East Chicago concerning petition for use variance to permit operation of a meat dehydrating, seasoning, and packaging facility at 3911.
So move, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Dunn. Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilman Monroe. Have any discussion on the motion? Councilman Garcia?
Yeah, Mr. President, I got Mr. Morrisroe here to explain it to the rest of the council.
Ladies and gentlemen, this site had been at one time a dentist's office. It's across the street from the Euclid Tap. It had been approved for this use 5-7 years ago. The family, the Quiroga family, including a retired firefighter, did not go forward at that time to implement it and to do the processing. Since it had been vacant for a period of years, especially the 1-year threshold, it had to come back before the BZA, and the BZA unanimously approved it. They have some 3 conditions in terms of the times, 6 to 8 a.m. It's grilled with a hood to be approved by the East Chicago Health Department, and that it's not a retail establishment. So if they want it to be a retail establishment, they'll have to come before the BZA again and before yourselves. Are any questions?
Councilman Garcia?
Mr. President, yeah, I attended the business and planning meeting on that. There was no residents against it. We had a couple that did show up. They were in favor of it, and I hope the rest of the council does support it.
Councilwoman Orange?
So you said that it's not a retail store?
No, it's simply, it's going to process the hydrating, seasoning, packaging facility, and then sell that wholesale, largely, I think, to taverns and other places. It's kind of a fast food use. So it's my understanding that they are not to sell retail, and we're not authorizing them to sell retail. So they won't have a stream of customers into a residential community, but rather will be taking their products and distributing those from the rear end of the alley end of the property.
Because as I can remember, that dentist office, that wasn't that big. It's,
But it goes all the way to the back. It's a long building.
Councilman Garcia?
Yes, just tell my rest of the council, it's a small business, just like the Garza family, which they make the candy here in East Chicago. They don't sell it out of their store. They distribute, and this was the same thing. Jerky meat, that's all they're going to do is make it and then distribute it. That's all.
Mr. President. Attorney Morris, there are specific conditions, aren't there, right on the face of the resolution?
Yes, there are.
You can operate only from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. A grill that could be approved by the city health department and not a retail establishment.
Correct.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Vasquez?
Just curious, how many employees will be working at this?
I think it's to be family operated, at least at the beginning. There may, a father and daughter, and perhaps one other family member. I think they may at some point do hiring, but they were not committing themselves to hiring because it's starting very small.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, resolution passes.
Thank you.
Resolution 19-0012, sponsor Councilman Lenny Francisci. Resolution of the Common Council of the City of East Chicago, Indiana, adopting the Lake County Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan.
And I could just quick speak, this is from the Lake County Homeland Security team. This is just against documents and something what we do if there was a terrorist attack throughout Lake County. We do have, I believe, Crown Point, Dyer, Gary, Munster, and Cherville already to adopt this resolution. I do have further information if anybody needs it. I do have it on a flash drive, but it's just connecting our communities together so we're kind of all on the same page in case there is a terrorist attack. Councilman Garcia?
Mr. President, yeah, if you remember, I followed up with you on this here. Do you have that plan on the flash drive?
Yes, I do.
If I could have that, I appreciate it.
Make sure you get it this evening.
So move on the resolution, Mr. President.
Second.
Motion was made by Councilman Garcia, seconded by Councilwoman Orange. Any other questions? Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Orange?
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Perez?
Yes.
Monroe?
Yes.
Francisco?
Yes, resolution passes.
Resolution 19-0013, sponsor Mayor Anthony Copeland. Resolution amending 13-0017, establishing new procedures in towing fees within the city of Chicago.
So moved. Second.
Motion was made by Councilwoman Orange, seconded by Councilwoman Walker. Any discussion on the motion? Councilman Perez?
My colleagues, this is a horrible, horrible resolution. To give the power to an unelected person to set rates that should be set by the elected body, it's just not good practice. Now, they not only not want us to keep check on the big budget by having to approve, now they just want to do it, and if we don't reverse it, they put the burden on the council to reverse the action of an unelected person. To me, it's a no-brainer. I'll let it go. I just think that This is like a really bad resolution. I urge everyone to vote no.
Councilman Medina?
I believe that these rates are currently, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Buscema, are they currently established by ordinance?
They are, and they were established by ordinance where the city council gave prior approval to the towing rates. And Councilman Perez is correct. This would reverse the prior approval and basically be a file and use ordinance. The department head could file the rates, and they would go in effect unless the council by ordinance would reject.
So you mean to tell me that a resolution is going to supersede a currently written ordinance?
I didn't draft the document.
Excuse me, I believe we do have somebody from the police department to speak on this.
That's not my question, Mr. President. My question is, if we have an ordinance, do we need to rescind that ordinance or amend that ordinance as opposed to...
Another ordinance.
Correct.
That would be my legal.
Yes. And so the resolution is really out of question.
Can only amend the existing towing rates
By ordinance.
by passing another ordinance.
Thank you.
I believe we do have somebody from the police department to speak on this.
Sergeant Judah Parks, East Chicago Police Department Traffic Division. Councilman Medina, to speak to that, the rates were last set by resolution. That's why this was done, to amend that resolution.
Well, that was why I had asked legal where we were at with this, if it was by resolution or was it by ordinance? And if it was done by resolution, the original ordinance should have been rescinded before anything else should have been adopted, my opinion.
Councilwoman Orange?
I make a motion that we send this to committee.
Second. So moved.
I got a motion by Councilwoman Orange, seconded by Councilman Medina, to send Resolution 19-0013 into committee. Any questions on the motion? Councilman Garcia?
Yeah, I agree, because there's too many questions that I have on this. And then you have a motorcycle that's getting towed for $145, just like a regular car. Doesn't say nothing about in-town towing firms and stuff like that. But I think this could be cleaned up.
Councilwoman Orange?
I was going to say, and Mr. Parks, make sure you're at that meeting so we can get clarity.
No problem, Councilwoman Orange.
I do understand why this has, because people have been calling about the toll rates. And, but that's something, Mr. Buscema, when we do this, is to look into, because from my understanding, some people are saying that they can't get their car out on Saturday because the police department technically is closed that day to be able to get your car or the towing.
Well, what happens with that, the police department, you can get your release at any time, but the towing firms are not open on the weekends. They operate 24 hours to tow, but as far as releasing the vehicles, they're not open on the weekends.
Mr. President, that release is not a toll rate issue. That's a different issue that should be taken into consideration in terms of whether that towing company, which doesn't have availability for citizens on the weekend, should be a licensed and permitted towing company within the city, apart from their rate structure. This is just pertaining to rates. But your point is related to this. There still is the issue that was raised by Councilman Perez, and that is whether it's by resolution or ordinance. The issue is whether the council wishes to give to the department head the authority to set the rates and just file and use the rates unless rejected by the council, or whether, as it's my understanding, has been done in the past. I don't know whether it's been done by resolution or ordinance. A proposed rate change would be brought to the council. The council would review it and decide whether it wishes to.
Right, it was definitely done by resolution. I wrote it and sponsored it. So that's how I know it was done by resolution.
Councilman Perez?
Yeah, and one other point to make is, besides giving up the authority to set the rate, you also allow the chief to be able to X out whatever tow outfit he wants to X out. I don't think, again, not trying to say that someone would abuse that, but it certainly could be abused when you have one unelected person. I think that this council has traditionally said who can tow. It should be an East Chicago firm with a yard in East Chicago and set the rates. And if the police department wants to change the rate, they come before the council and change the rate. I see this as, like I said before, a really bad ordinance. Once again, they not only want us to do our job, but they want someone else to do our job.
Councilwoman Orange?
First of all, I don't think this council ever said who could tow. They never said who could tow. We did set the rates, but who could tow and who couldn't tow, that we never made that decision. So when you weren't on here at that time, we could make that decision.
And if I may, it was never done by the council. It was done by Board of Safety. And I think if you're going to say about giving the chief power to terminate, let's say exactly everything that's for malfeasance or misconduct. So, and I understand what you're saying perfectly well, but also you have to understand that we're the ones dealing with the tow companies on a daily basis. So, I mean, you say give power to somebody who's not elected. You're elected, and that's well respected, but you don't deal with the tow companies or the issues that the tow companies have on a regular basis.
I agree with you, and the police department has found a lot of friends up here. So whenever they have an issue and they come up here, we tend to have your back. And I don't think that any of that would change without giving up our authority.
Councilwoman Orange?
I just think that we have to be careful about saying things that could be misleading about people, whether it's about the administration, about the police department, just to make a point. And because, at some point you have to be real careful about what you say. And then because a couple of times this council have almost gotten sued because they were accusing people of things. Nobody's trying to take your position away from you. But the thing of it is that, like I said, we have to be careful about what we're saying to the public.
I'm assuming this will go to a Public Safety Committee?
Correct. We'll
Okay, so just contact
Not
me.
elected, you can't say who it's going to be.
True. Any other questions for me before I sit down?
No, just
Yes, sir.
Councilman Monroe?
I'm sorry, I'm running the meeting. I apologize.
But just a question. When they're closed on Saturdays, and you guys give them the car on Friday, say they don't get it or whatever, are they being charged still on Saturday and Sunday?
Yes.
That you
And
know of?
If you looked at the resolution, in the past, they've just been charged 24-hour storage. Within this resolution, it cuts down on the hours. 0 to 6 hours is a certain fee, 7 to 13 is a certain fee.
Cool.
7 to 12, 13 to, and so on. So that's a little bit different, but they will be charged for it.
Any other questions for Sergeant Parks? Madam Clerk, roll call to put Resolution 19-0013 in committee.
Maldonado.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Vasquez.
Yes.
yes.
Orange.
Yes.
Yes.
Perez.
Yes.
Monroe.
Yes.
Yes. Do we have any old business? Councilman Garcia?
Yeah, I'd like to thank William Allen. He's not here today, but he had texted me with some information, with some stuff that's happening in my district. I'm pretty sure everybody got this paper on the desk. Projects that's still going on. But I had a couple questions on here. NIPSCO failure to reconstruct work sites throughout EC after completing repairs. This has been an ongoing problem in East Chicago where NIPSCO comes in and tears up our streets, our sidewalks, and doesn't repair it. I know I had quite a few problems with that William Allen has gone back and gotten fixed. But I see they got a NIPSCO bike path. I'd like to know what is that right there. But I'd like to thank William Allen for following up with me. Attorney Buscemi, that issue with the FMLA, is it legal or not?
Your request, I spoke with the Human Resources Director, and she explained the policy, and we worked with the existing
Can we find out? Mr. Sunder, I think the last time you was here, I asked for some information. Steve haven't got it to me yet, so I'd like to see where's that info at. Thank you, Mr. Sunder.
Any other old business? Moving on to new business. Councilman Garcia.
Just wanted to let my colleagues know I got a meeting tomorrow at the PD and with the building department on the 37th block of Grand. Been having some issues with some apartment buildings. Sunday before last, we had a school board member just passing by with his family. His car got shot up. His wife was in the car, and his mother-in-law. But these rental properties, they're getting out of hand. I got a meeting tomorrow to start reining them in with the building department and with the PD. I'm glad that this PD has changed, because now they're going to work on these apartment buildings with the building department. But anybody's welcome to come to this meeting if they want to come with me.
What time is it?
3:30.
Councilwoman Orange.
I think Councilman Medina had passed an ordinance some time ago about the apartment buildings, and if the police had to go there so many times that we would start finding them. I don't know. And that's one thing I want to make sure that when we pass something here, that it goes to the right department. This has been some time ago he passed that, so that we could find these landlords. Even though I know that when you go down state, the landlords got a big lobbying committee. They don't always, adhere to what we're saying. But I know you did pass that ordinance about that, and I think that with the new police chief, that ordinance should be re-given to him so that he knows that we did pass that, and we are able to find those landlords if they have to continue to go back to a certain house 5 and 6 times, and it's a nuisance. So I think that's one of the problems. We got to make sure those laws get to the right person.
Councilman Garcia.
Yes, I agree with you, Councilwoman Orange. Like I said, I'm excited because this new command staff, they're tired of going on these calls. They know where the problem's at, and they want to nip it in the bud with these properties, with these thugs, in these apartment buildings, keep on shooting and shooting and shooting. We were lucky that Sunday, but it's been a lot of shooting coming from that area. They got the tools with the shot spotter and the calls that go to the area. We got laws in place. We just didn't have nobody to enforce it, not on the PD side, but on the building department side also.
Thank you. Any other new business? Council.
Question I was going to ask Councilman Garcia, because he's over transportation for the buses. Are there any ways, I know this is sort of off the beaten path, but as far as you guys getting cameras on those buses, I see every morning when people still ride past that stop sign. Is there any way that you guys are getting some type of, in fact, I said I was going to start taking the pictures of the license plate. Are you guys going to get any type of cameras or something?
As we replace buses, we have what they call stop arm cameras, which they're on where the stop arm's at. So as we replace them, we get them. Matter of fact, I'm working on one with Sergeant Parks right now, where we had a car pass and hit the stop sign that was out on the bus. So as we replace buses, we put the stop arm cameras on them also.
Because I think it's just a reminder to people that's listening, that you have to be very, very careful about with the kids, because the kids are darting out and the people are just riding past.
Oh, yes.
I know the buses used to go catty corner, so they couldn't get past. But they're not allowed to do that.
No.
Any other new business? Moving on to public expression. Madam Clerk, do we have any cards? Have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
It was made by Councilman Medina, seconded by Councilman Monroe. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Who?
Yes.
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 Yes. Good night.